In this video, I'm going to show you my 3 favorite ways to use leftover turkey. So the first and easiest way to put leftover turkey to proper use is a styled out version of the old school classic chicken salad, but with turkey. To get started, into a bowl, I'll add 650 grams of leftover turkey. And by the way, all 3 recipes in this video will use 650 grams, or just about 1.5 pounds. And to prep this for the bowl, I took some meat off of a leftover bird, I gave it a rough chop, and then I folded it together. The blend of white meat to dark meat is roughly 50-50, and I assume that will be close to what you have as well. Then in goes 175 grams of nice tasting mayo. When I say nice tasting, I mean Duke's, or something that tastes like Duke's. Of course, I'm a big fan of making your own mayo, and if you wanted to do that, I'll link to a video in the description where I show you how, but I'm assuming that you've just cooked a ton of food over the last few days and you're looking for something easy, so just buy nice store-bought mayo, like Duke's. Not sponsored. Behind that, I'll add in 75 grams of stone ground mustard, basically something that's texturally between smooth Dijon and coarse whole grain. Behind that, I'll grab 100 grams of bread and butter style pickles and give them a rough chop. The sweetness from these pickles is going to be the key to balancing this entire salad, so if you don't like pickles and decide to skip these, you're probably not going to think this recipe is very good. So don't. In those go. From there, I'll grab 2 to 3 small shallots and then give those a very small dice. Once they're cut, I'll rinse them under cold water in a little strainer to remove that harsh sulfury allium thing that gives you dragon breath. That makes for a much more sessionable, refined Turk salad. In goes the shallots, then I'll squeeze in the juice of 1 medium lemon. Since the amount of juice in a lemon is pretty widely variable and too much lemon will wreck this dish, specifically I'm adding in 40 grams. Next, I'll grab a small bunch of parsley and then give it a rough chop. This is curly parsley, by the way. I find that it's a little easier to chop than flat leaf parsley, and surprisingly to me, it's actually less bitter. 15 grams of parsley in total goes into the bowl, and then lastly, I'll grab some tarragon. This is the signature chicken/turkey salad flavor in my opinion. It's a little licoricey, it's a little sweet, and makes me feel really nostalgic for an era of French cooking that I did not live through. Into the bowl that goes. Then to finish, I'll add a generous pinch of salt, at least 5 to 6 grams worth, then a generous pinch of black pepper. The salt is going to have to be to taste here because everyone's turkey is seasoned quite differently, but based on all of the turkey that I've eaten thus far in my life, yours probably needs salt. Now, once I've got this generally mixed together, I'm going to switch from a squeezing and folding move into a more aggressive whipping movement. This is really why I think using your hands makes better chicken salad than just using a spoon. This way, I'm able to shred the chicken down a little bit while also working up the proteins in the turkey to make it bind together much better than just cooked turkey with mayo sitting on it. Of course, you could do this in a stand mixer on medium speed as well. That result would be pretty similar and would also unify things the way we're looking for. Once I've got this all whipped up to the point where it's a touch sticky and holding itself together well like this, I'm going to give it a taste. Salt level's good, acid level from the lemon, also very good. Next, to put this salad into sandwich format, I'll grab a nice squishy brioche bun that I got from the supermarket, and then I'll brush both sides liberally with melted butter. Over at the stove, I've got a non-stick pan preheated over medium heat, and once I've buttered my buns, I'll drop them in and give them a light toasting for 30 to 45 seconds, or until they're lightly crisped up and medium golden brown on each side. There we go. Now a little BB dollop of mayo on the bottom bun to keep things lubed up, then a few leaves of crunchy green leaf lettuce, then a gentleman's portion of turkey salad goes on top, at least 6 to 8 ounces for the B-man, then a strong pinch of black pepper to open up the nostrils, and then a top bun also spread with mayo to keep things under control. For me, this turkey salad is an annual go-to when I'm sick of Thanksgiving flavors, but still flush with large Ziploc bags full of cooked turkey. This salad is bright, herbaceous, crunchy, soft, creamy, well-seasoned, and dare I say it, civilized. Give it a try and let me know how it goes in the comments. The next way I love to use leftover turkey is classic suburban mom enchiladas. My version reminds me of the stuff my mom used to make, but it's better. Sorry, mother. Now to get started on the chili sauce for this dish, into a medium high heat heavy bottom pot, I'll add a good long squeezer of high smokepoint neutral oil, then 75 grams of chili powder and 50 grams of paprika. A quick stir to fry those off and let their aromas bloom out, maybe 60 seconds or so. And once they're putting off a touch of smoke and smelling fragrant, I'll add in most of, but not all of, a box of store-bought stock. About 800 grams out of the total 950. I'll stir that to prevent any clumpiness from forming, and then I'll add in 2 cans of tomato sauce or 4 450 grams worth. Tomato puree here works fine as well. 15 grams of brown sugar behind that, then 25 grams of cider vinegar, and then 5 grams of salt. I'll stir that to melt the sugar, and then I'll bring the whole pot up to a simmer so that I can reduce the sauce for about 15 minutes. I'll do that over on my smaller burner and over medium heat so that it doesn't splatter or burn. Then I'll grab a medium-large saute pan and drop it down over medium-high heat. In goes a long squeezer of high smoke point oil, then 150 grams of white onion, 150 grams of poblano pepper, 5 to 6 cloves of minced garlic, then a strong pinch of salt. I'll jump in to give that a stir to combine, and I'll cook it for 4 to 5 minutes. After that 4 to 5 minutes of frying over medium heat, these veggies should be mostly tender and starting to take on a little color around the edges like this. So next, in goes 5 grams of chili powder, 5 grams of cumin, 5 grams of black pepper, and 2 grams of dried oregano. I'll stir those in and let them fry off and get fragrant for another minute or so, and then in goes all of my chopped leftover turkey. Again, that's 650 grams worth, or just about 1.5 pounds. From there, I'll toss to get that combined, and then use my wooden spoon to shred this turkey down even further. I want a texture that easily fits inside of a rolled up tortilla. Anything that's too chunky is just gonna fall out when we lift these enchiladas out of the pan. I'll give this 2 to 3 more minutes of sauteing with the spices and veggies, and once it's all shreddy and looking spiced like this, I'm gonna add in a quick splash of chicken stock or water to re-moisten things. Don't fry this turkey too hard, you guys, especially if your turkey was overcooked in the first place. Once this is all finished, I'm going to move it over to a bowl to hang out while I sort out the tortilla part of these enchiladas. For that, I'll grab a little tortilla warmer to hold onto them as I heat them, but a towel and a plate would work if you don't have one of these. I'll also grab my turkey pan, give it a quick wash out, and then drop it back over high heat. From there, in goes my tortillas, 2 at a time. I'll mention that I like to hit these with just a touch of water before I dry fry them like this, because I find that makes them extra pliable and helps keep them from drying out while we're heating them. After I flip this, you can see that it's been kissed with a little char and it's looking good. So from there, I'm going to move these over to my warmer to keep them floppy until I'm ready. Lid goes on, and let's check back on our chili sauce. As you can see, it's been reduced by about 30% and it's now looking inky, thickened, and very intense. It should have the viscosity of like loose barbecue sauce. Next, I'll drop in my tortillas one at a time, then I'll come back and flip those over to get them evenly saturated with the enchilada sauce. And once they are, I'll move them over to a little bowl to stand by until it's time to roll them up. After I've got 12 of these things covered in sauce, I'll take a strong pinch of my oniony turkey mixture from before and drop it onto the tortilla. Then 2 to 3 ounces of a mild cheddar and pepper jack blend go on top of that. I opted to grate 1 pound of each of these cheeses myself because I prefer how it melts, and I get to buy more flavorful cheeses that aren't sitting in anti-caking agents getting stale on the shelf for months at a time. Overall, it's just a lot fresher of a way to do cheese, and I like the results a lot better. Next, I'll roll up this tortilla into a tight cigar shape, then move it over to a baking dish that I've lined with 3 to 4 spoonfuls of the enchilada sauce. Once I got 12 of these things tucked up in this pan, 8 one way and then 2 by 2 the other, I'll top it with 4 more spoons of the sauce. I'll spread that out from edge to edge, then I'll drop enough cheese to generously cover. From there, I'll load this into a 375F oven to bake for 20 to 25 minutes. While that bubbles up and gets nice and melty, let me quickly thank Harry's for sponsoring this video. Completely unrelated to this sponsorship, I started using razors from Harry's a couple of years ago when I was looking to replace the razors that I had been using since high school. Originally, I picked up Harry's because I liked the price. The second reason though was, honestly, they got me with the design. Check out this new 2-tone handle in sage. It's really nice looking. Yes, I'm a sucker for aesthetics, but I've continued to use Harry's since then because they use premium, high quality German engineered blades that give me a close, comfortable, and smooth shave, which is literally all I'm looking for in a razor. So if you're ready for a good shave, you can redeem your Harry's starter set for just $5 when you head to harrys.com/BrianL. In the starter set, you'll get a 5-blade razor, a weighted handle, a blade cover, and their foaming shave gel. By the way, the foaming gel that comes in the starter kit is great for people with sensitive skin like me because it has ingredients in it like aloe and hyaluronic acid. Mucho soothing. Again, to get your starter set delivered to your door for $5, head to harrys.com/BrianL. Thank you, Harry's. After 25 minutes at 375, this pan of enchiladas is ready to come out. As you can see, it's all the stuff you want. It's gooey, saucy, meaty, melty, sweet, and just a little bit spicy. And it's possibly more comforting than Thanksgiving itself. To finish, I like to hit my enchiladas with a little light lime crema to add just a touch of creamy cold acidity to balance out all that rich, luscious, melty cheese. To sum up, turkey enchiladas are mucho sick. Mexican lasagna, basically, and I hope you try them soon. Now, this last dish ain't no slouch. On the comfort scale, it's right at the frickin' top. I'm talking about leftover turkey pot pie. To make the crust for this thing, into the food processor, I'll combine 400 grams of all-purpose flour, 8 grams of salt, and then 170 grams of thinly sliced butter. That's about a stick and a half. The lid goes on and I'll pulse this 12 to 15 times or until the butter is broken down into little gravelly bits like this. Next, I'll add in 85 grams of sour cream and 1 large egg. This added fat is going to make this dough much more pliable and easy to shape, but also taste great. The lid goes back on and I'll pulse this one more time for about 20 to 30 seconds or until it's brought together into a sandy but hydrated dough. I know this dough is in the right spot when I squeeze some together in my hand and it holds itself together without any issue, but can still be crumbled. Next, I'll flip this out onto my cutting board and then squeeze it together until it forms a unified slab. I'm not exactly kneading it because that would make it chewy, but I am doing what it takes to make this a cohesive mass. And once I've got it squeezed into a large hockey puck shape, I'm going to wrap it with plastic wrap and then throw it into the fridge to hydrate and cool for 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, I'll pull out my dough and let it soften at room temperature for 20 to 25 minutes. While that softens, I'll drop a heavy bottom pot on the stove over medium-high heat. Once that's hot, in goes a whole stick of butter, or 115 grams, then 225 grams of onion, 150 grams of celery, 150 grams of carrot, 100 grams of fennel, skip the fennel if you want and sub in more onions, carrots, and celery, then a strong pinch of salt and a stir to combine. From here, I'm gonna let this veg sweat and soften over medium-ish heat for about 5 to 6 minutes. And once things are getting a little bit cooked down like this, I'll add in 250 grams of Yukon Gold potatoes. I'll stir those in and, oh, I forgot. I'm also gonna add in 10 to 15 grams of minced garlic. That gets a stir, and then I'll cook these veggies for another 2 to 3 minutes. Once the water's cooked off and the veg is starting to look translucent like this, I'll add in 150 grams of all-purpose flour to make this thing into a roux. I'll stir that up to get the flour incorporated and to cook off its rawness. That'll take about 2 to 3 minutes. And once it's glazing up the bottom of the pot and no longer smells of raw flour, I'll add in 150 grams of something semi-sweet and alcoholic. I'm using dry sherry here, but white wine would also be a great fit. As you can see, as that gets stirred in, it's gonna thicken up pretty fast, and about 30 seconds later, I'll add 900 to 1,000 grams of chicken stock. Then I'll bring that up to a simmer and I'll stir it constantly to both prevent scorching and to prevent lumpiness as it thickens. Once it's a simmering, I'm gonna lower this heat to medium-low and pop on a lid so these veggies and potatoes can cook until they're just getting tender. About 10 to 15 more minutes. 10 to 15 minutes later, this filling is thickened, creamy, and smells amazing. I'll stir to release anything from the bottom of the pot that might have gotten stuck, and I'll also snag a potato and a carrot to see how tender they are. They're soft, but not mushy at all. I'd say about 94% cooked in total, and that's ideal. Next, I'll add a strong pinch of salt to season the sauce, some cracked black pepper, and then 1 gram or 3 to 4 sprigs of thyme that I've chopped. A quick stir to get that incorporated, then in goes 150 grams of frozen peas, and then 650 grams of my chopped leftover turkey. One last time, I'll jump in and stir everything to combine, and I'll mention go easy on this stuff at this point because you want to keep the veggies as unsmashed as you can. They're going to get cooked pretty hard under that pie crust, and we're trying to prevent mushiness at all costs. This looks delicious though. It's creamy and thickened, but not gloppy, and it's full of soft, delicious textures. The last step on the way to pot pie is going to be to roll out that crust. So I'll unwrap the tempered dough on my cutting board, then dust both sides of it with flour to keep it from sticking to the board, my rolling pin, or me. Then I'll grab my rolling pin, put it halfway up the dough, and then gently press down and roll forward. I'll repeat the same maneuver for the bottom half. I'll turn 90 degrees and repeat. Roll forward, gently roll back. I'll turn that 90 degrees and repeat that 2 to 3 more times. Once the dough is spread to about 10 inches across, it's flat enough for me to switch to general purpose rolling. From this point forward, there's really no science to it other than just gently pressing and rolling this dough into a very rough, relatively flat circle. If you notice a lot of cracking around the edges, that's to be expected. Just come back and squeeze those back together and keep on rolling. Once I've got this rolled into a roughly half-inch thick and 13 to 14-inch wide circle like this, I'll grab a 12-inch cast iron pan or something similar to it and measure it up. That fits pretty well, so I'll drop it and come back with a knife to clean up the sides a little bit. I've noticed that if there's too much crust hanging off the side of the pan, it'll melt and crack and then end up burning on the bottom of my oven and smoking up my house. When the sides are cleaned up, I'll pop off the pan, then lift the dough off the board very carefully and set it aside. Then I'll drop the pan back down and in goes the turkey filling that we just made. Next, to get this pie crust to stick to the pan, I'm going to egg wash the sides a little bit. That's just 1 egg and a splash of water. If you skip this step, there'd be a gap between the crust and the pan, and there'd be some bubbling over that happens when it's baked, and it would make a mess of your oven. Next, I'll take the round of crust that we just rolled out and carefully lay it over the filling. You'll notice that I cut 2 slits in the middle while it was sitting over there. That's to let steam escape and prevent the filling from bubbling up and cracking open the top. From there, I'll just squeeze the dough a little bit to seal it nicely with the cast iron pan. And once that's all tucked up, I'll liberally egg wash the entire top to give it a nice shiny exterior and to keep it from drying out as we bake. From there, I'll load this into a 400F oven to bake it for 25 to 30 minutes. After 25 minutes in the oven, this turkey pot pie is ready to come out. The crust is nicely golden brown, it's flaky looking, and looks alive from that underbubble. Of course, I recommend letting this cool for at least 20 minutes before you break into it because there's hot lava under that crust and it will absolutely ruin your mouth for a week. So be patient. After it's cooled, I think this looks like pretty awesome turkey pot pie. It's flaky, buttery, crispy, it's rich. The filling inside is soft, hot, flavorful, and is the embodiment of comfort. You want this, I want this. We all want you to make it for your family after Thanksgiving. That's my 3 best ideas of how to use leftover turkey. I'm sure there's a million more. Please let me know your ideas down in the comments. Let's eat this thing.